A terrible start to the weekend actually turned into a better series than expected on Sunday for our Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Friday's game was the perfect example of what a competitive team looks like versus a team that thinks they're competitive. But then Saturday, that game showed us what the Angels can do if they just adjust. And then, of course, Sunday, they won again, surprise, surprise. But Taylor Ward goes down with a terrible injury. And, John, I love this. Joe Adell sounds off about the juice box in Houston. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But before we get there, we want to thank our sponsor, FanDuel. Football season is here. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets right now.
Happy Monday to you and happy Labor Day. Thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Hey, it's our fourth season as a host of Locked On Angels, talking Angels baseball with you every single weekday, Monday through Friday, however you want to slice it. Check us out wherever you listen to podcasts, whether you're watching or listening. Get in on the conversation by coming over to today's show on YouTube. Get in the comments section. We'd love to hear from you there. Hit that like and subscribe button while you're there as well. It helps put us in front of other Angel fans who might not know about Locked On Angels. And hit us up on social media at Locked On Angels, at Super Halo Bros, and give us your thoughts on today's discussion and takeaways from this weekend series. Of course, we got one more today, but we're going to talk about the series so far. But before we get to that, come bowling with us at the second annual Logan O'Hoppe All-Star Bowl this Sunday. Can you believe it? September 7th from 5 to 8:30 p.m. in Fountain Valley. We're helping raise money and support the YMCA of Orange County. There's a link in the episode description where you can get your ticket. And when you check out, make sure you use our promo code HALOBROS, all one word, and you'll get yourself a nice discount.
John, Friday started off really disappointing. The Angels lost that game 2-0. And what we saw in that game was the difference between a real competitive team versus a team that thinks that they're competitive. And here's three takeaways to prove that. First takeaway is we saw that in the pitching. Astros got a great start from Christian Javier. He had a no-hitter through 5 innings. Tyler Anderson matched him, by the way. He went 5, gave up 5 hits, but no runs. Now, what was the difference for Tyler Anderson? Well, he said that he made a little adjustment in his delivery in the last start. Seems like guys were having a harder time picking it up. He said, I landed a whole lot better and was more consistent this time. Then we got word on Sunday that he went to the IL with an oblique strain, so he's probably done for the rest of the year.
Too big of an adjustment for Tyler Anderson, I suppose. Yeah, you went overboard.
Yeah. Overstretched himself now that he's a dad. Now, the difference in this game was the bullpen. The Astros bullpen pitched 3 innings of shutout ball. The Angels bullpen didn't do that. And to be fair, the pen wasn't bad. They just weren't able to stop the Astros offense like the Astros were able to stop the Halos offense. They went 3 innings, gave up 2 runs. And the advantage was to the real competitive team, and that was the Astros.
You know, the one in first place, the one that, looked awful to start the year, but then somehow they come through and they, covering game night this year, MLB game night on the Locked On MLB channel, it's just been fascinating to watch how the Astros are, if you want to talk Halo Bros, they just plunk good players out of the ground like Super Mario Brothers 2, where you pick the vegetables out of the ground and throw them, because that's honestly what it's been, Mike. The pitching and the hitting. It's like, oh shoot, we don't have Yordan Alvarez for a whole year. Well, how about we bring up this guy and see what he can do, or we'll get great production out of Mauricio Dubon, right? It's just like they've been finding help in all of these places. But it also goes to show what a well-run organization can do, because they have the players to take over for the guys who get hurt at the major league level, and then they have guys that they can call upon from the minor leagues to help them out. Now, you mentioned the difference between a competitive team and a quote-unquote competitive team, and you saw that in the pitching, but what about in the hitting, Mike?
Yeah, second takeaway is the Angels just couldn't hit in this game. It was 0-0 until the 7th inning, and then the Astros took advantage of a fielding error by Christian Moore. He said just rushed his throw, didn't set himself, it's going to be a mistake that Christian Moore makes. He's still learning at the major league level. I think this is the best place for him to learn. But the Astros did what a competitive team does. They cashed in with a run on back-to-back singles by Jose Altuve and Carlos Correa. Then they got a second run via a walk, a sac bunt, a single, and a sac fly. I mean, that's a really productive inning. When was the last time we were able to say that about our Halos? And the Angels had the same chances that the Astros had, but they were not good. They failed. In the top of the seventh inning, they got their first hit. Yohan Moncada hit a double. Then Joe Adell followed with a single. No outs, runners at the corners, John, and the Angels didn't score. O'Hoppe flies out to center field, but it wasn't deep enough for a sacrifice fly.
Right.
Moore strikes out, so doesn't put the ball in play. And then Nico Cavadas flew out to right field, which ended the inning. And Ray Montgomery said, first and third, nobody out. You got to have a couple of at-bats where you hoped that they were a little bit better quality, but that seems to be what the Angels operate on often in games. It's like, hey, man, we hope that they actually come through instead of going, hey, let's help them make some contact. Let's squeeze in if we're struggling to get a run here. Let's swing it to the other way. Let's put runners in motion. There was none of that from the coaching side, and there was none of that from the hitting side.
Yeah, the Angels had another chance in the top of the eighth with Rengifo taking a leadoff walk, and then he stole second base. Then Neto and Trout both struck out. Ward walked, and so did Moncada. So you have the bases loaded there, and then Joe Adell flew out to center field. So once again, advantage goes to the real competitive team, not the one that thinks that they're competitive.
Yeah. Third takeaway, John, we saw this in the coaching. And I mentioned that just in the last takeaway, but also in this one with a 1-run lead, the Astros decided to move a runner over with a sacrifice bunt. When the Angels had opportunities, they just continued to swing away without any thought to moving runners over. Their at-bats never changed. They didn't shorten up swings. It was interesting because it changed on Saturday, not until late in the game, but it didn't seem like they were going to change their strategy until late in the game. Offensively, the Halos just had 2 hits in Friday's game to the Astros 9. They struck out 11 times, including 3 by Mike Trout. The Astros, they just struck out 3 times. They also walked 6 times and got a run out of it. The Angels walked 6 times, but they couldn't score because every time they got a walk, it was either with 2 outs and they couldn't advance runners, or it was in a situation where the inning ended up being over because they flew out or they struck out. And then defensively, the Halos had 2 errors and it cost them a run, and the Astros played it clean on the defensive side. So again, advantage to the real competitive team. We saw a big difference between the Angels and the Astros, at least on Friday night.
And you know what's frustrating about a loss like this is that it's been happening all season, right, Mike? In the sense that how many great starts did we get out of a Tyler Anderson or a Kyle Hendricks? Heck, even a Jack Kohanowitz.
Yeah.
Not great in the sense of, oh man, 8 shutout innings, right? Not something like that. But you finally get a good start out of Tyler Anderson, who's been struggling for, 3/4 of the season. But then the offense doesn't show up. The offense can't do anything. The offense can't make adjustments. And that was what was going on during that really bad period of late April through the middle of May, where these guys would get a start out of one of those 3 5-6 innings of 3-run ball or less. And so more than once we have said during this season, man, they should be able to pick up their starter who only gave up 2 runs across 6 innings, right? And that's the kind of stuff that was going on early this season. Well, those symptoms, so to speak, kind of reared their ugly head again on Friday's game, didn't it?
Yeah. And when we talk about a lack of adjustment, here's the mindset when you go to the plate. You have a certain approach, right? And Johnny Washington's preaching that, and maybe the players are talking to each other saying, oh, he's throwing a curve or he's throwing a changeup. But when it's not working and you don't have a hit until the 7th inning, right, then you have to make adjustments. And that's where you shorten up your swing. That's where you go, I'm not going to try to crush this. I know he's throwing the curve, but I haven't been able to hit it. I know he's throwing the change, but I haven't been able to make really good contact. So then you want to slap it a little bit more, no matter who you are, whether you're Zach Neto or you're, Teodosio, right? Like you want to slap the ball, put it in play. And that's what we mean by making adjustments. The mindset has to change. And it seems like this Angel team just doesn't ever make those adjustments along the way. Now, again, to give you some heads up is where we're going. We all saw that Saturday's game. They did adjust in the 9th inning. So they've proven that they can. But in this game, they just never adjusted against Javier. And then when they got to the bullpen and got a couple of runners on, things were great, but then they couldn't make any contact. And if they made just a little bit of contact in that 7th inning, they could have produced a run maybe without a hit because they made contact. They hit the ball on the ground or they hit the ball in the air. But there's no adjustment. There's no adjustment of the feet. There's no adjustment of the hands. And there's no adjustment of the mindset. And so when we talk about that, that's what we're talking about. How are the Angels walking up to the plate? Are they thinking, well, I'm going to hit that curve even though I missed it last time? Man, if you've already had 2 at-bats and your team doesn't have any hits and you're struggling to score runs, that's where you go, okay, I'm not going to crush it. I'm just going to try to flat swing, level swing. I'm not going to try to get exit velocity. I'm not going to try to get, how high I'm going to hit it or whatever might be the case. It just doesn't seem like, at least on Friday, that the Angels do that. And over the course of the year, it just seems like as the person in front of me goes, so I go as well.
Yeah, and the stat you mentioned already that kind of sums things up for Friday. Angels struck out 11 times. Astros struck out 3 times. And that's also been a symptom of everything that's happened this season. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Coming up, the Halos adjusted their approach on Saturday, and it paid off. We'll tell you how it paid off coming right up.
Everydayers, you don't have to pay full price for gas anymore. Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. You simply download the Upside app from the App Store or Google Play Store right now, and you can start earning cash at the pump today. And use our limited time promo code SEASON, and you're going to get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 in a year just buying gas that you already needed, which is great. Real people are getting really paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out at any time to your bank account, PayPal account, or maybe an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. So don't let this offer pass you by. Download the free Upside app right now using our limited time promo code SEASON for a limited time 20 cent per gallon bonus. Again, promo code SEASON. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions.
And this episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Guys, the NFL season is almost here. FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the entire app. Using FanDuel fits however you like to bet, whether it's player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in on the live action as it unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, it's easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays or Mondays or Thursdays, right? We got football all the time.
Yeah.
So download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. And thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Locked On wants to hear from you, everydayers. They put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and to make your favorite podcast, Locked On Angels, so much better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Thanks for the kind comments, by the way, for those that have filled out this survey and saying that you love us and we love you back. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. That's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can find the link in the show notes, and thanks for helping us out.
Mike, Saturday's game was a 4-1 win for the Angels. Now, it was their 63rd win at the time, which matched last year's total. So no more 100-loss season on the books, right?
By the way, I know this is petty, but there's multiple fans that have said 100 losses incoming. Nope. Maybe 99, but not 100.
Yeah. Well,
petty. I know it's petty.
Well, that's the thing is 99 can't happen either because of the results on Sunday. Right. So there you go. But
98.
last year, I didn't think it was a 100-loss team. And I know it's 99, but said it wasn't going to be 100. So there you go. And here we are again. But this game was a perfect example of what can happen if the Angels adjust.
Yes.
And they don't swing for the fences, right, Mike?
Yeah, and that's where we're going to start. In fact, first takeaway, Angels rally for 3 runs in the top of the ninth. It all happened because Astros pitcher Brian Abreu gave up 4 hits for the first time in an inning this season. First time in a game this season. It started with a Luis Rengifo single, then Ohapi follows with a single, and so does Matthew Lugo. But the Halos didn't score because Rengifo got a really bad read on the ball to right field. Also, John, because Rengifo was the only person in the stadium that didn't know that Lugo's ball was going to be a hit. I could tell it was going to be a hit. So I just, again, frustrations with that guy. And he seems like a really nice guy, but it just seems like this year he really has regressed. Not necessarily, I mean, obviously offense and defense and stats, but it seems like he's regressed in his baseball IQ this season as well. But he seemed like the only guy in the stadium that didn't know that ball was going to drop in right field. He didn't get a good read. He froze. It was one of those things where you're like, that's going to cost the Angels. However, it didn't cost him, which I'm grateful for.
Yeah, it didn't cost him. But Mike, maybe Rengifo lost the ball in the train tracks and the scoreboard and the Crawford boxes and the warehouse doors. Maybe
I know that you're going to go off in segment 3 when we talk about Taylor Ward, and I can't wait.
Oswald Peraza was the one who ended up saving the inning. He had a 2-run double to right field, almost went out.
Yeah.
Cam Smith, the Astros right fielder, struggled with the ball in the corner. It fooled Wayne Randazzo on the broadcast. He thought he caught it and dropped it, but no, he never was able to get to it. So that allowed the second run of the inning to score. And then with 2 outs, both Moncada and Trout walked, which led to another run against Abreu. So again, a total of 3 runs to give the Angels the lead off Brian Abreu, who was just not having a great day, was he?
No. Second takeaway, the 9th inning was desperately needed because the Halos struggled to get a hit and to hit it all through 8 innings. They had just 1 hit through 7. And that hit was a Zach Neto home run, his 24th at the time. The Angels just couldn't string hits together. And they did walk in this game, John.
Yeah.
7 total walks, but 3 of the first 4 walks happened with 2 outs. And the Angels couldn't capitalize. And then in the top of the 7th, kind of the best example of that, Rengifo walks, and so does Ohapi. But with runners on first and second, Lugo's pinch hitting. He strikes out. Then Travis d'Arnaud is pinch hitting, and he hits the ball hard and lines out. It was the first time the Angels had any at-bats, by the way, in this game with runners in scoring position. Took them 7 innings to do that. And this is the big number. Halos struck out 14 times in this game. But as we mentioned, they had much better at-bats in that 9th inning.
There's a point where, strikeouts are a symptom of power sometimes, but this is ridiculous.
Right.
Like that's not a symptom. That's an illness, right? That's something fundamentally wrong.
It is metastasized, right?
Yes, exactly. You got to have that removed, Angels. That's the problem. All right.
Yeah.
Third takeaway was the game was close because Kyle Hendricks pitched a great game.
He did.
6 total innings against the Astros. It was his first 6-inning start, giving up just 1 run since July 27th against the Mariners. The Mariners, that is. Hendricks allowed 7 hits, but he didn't walk anybody, Mike. He just struck out 2, but he got 10 outs on the ground in this game. Kept him off balance, the Astros, with his sinker and his changeup. He threw the sinker 43% of the time, and then the changeup 27% of the time. And the thing you need to know about the changeup is that even though it qualifies as one pitch when it's recorded, as the kind of pitch that it is, it's kind of 2 different changeups. He's got that kick changeup that cuts in on lefties. And so, they call it a cut changeup because it's kind of like a cut fastball where it's kind of going to run in on somebody. So that's really interesting as well. And then Hendricks, of course, hit his spots, looked much better than his start against the Cubs. So that was exciting to see. But once again, there were a couple things that, look, I'm grateful for a win. I'm appreciative of a win. But there were moments that I questioned. Mike, I don't know about you, but I really hate when they pinch hit for Bryce Teodosio. What do you think?
Yeah, I get it because he's a young guy and they want to get maybe a more of a threat at the plate. But that's the difference between a real competitive team versus one that thinks that they're competitive. Like in those moments, I'd like to see what Teodosio does, right? I'd like to see if he can lay down a bunt or slap a ball to left field. And he's proven that he can do some of those things. I get why they pinch hit. The problem is that it makes it even worse and feels like it's under the microscope when they strike out or when they line out, when they don't produce. And that's been the biggest issue, is that pinch hitting for some of these young guys means that they don't get an opportunity to maybe flex that late inning muscle. And you give it to somebody like a Travis d'Arnaud, who has proven to flex that late inning muscle, but in this game, he didn't do it. And it's just kind of, again, one of those things where if the Angels didn't win on Sunday, and I know they have one more game today, then this feels like, yeah, of course they won a game like this. But luckily, Sunday was also another well-pitched game. John, all weekend long, the Angels starters have flipped a switch or turned a corner. They were able to keep the Astros off balance. We had Tyler Anderson, who then said, I'm not feeling very good, and goes on the IL.
Yeah.
We've got Kyle Hendricks, who went 6 innings and kept them off balance. This is why you signed that guy, to eat innings. And he's been doing that in a quality sort of way more often than not. And then, of course, what happened on Sunday that we'll get to with Jose Soriano.
Yeah. With Kyle Hendricks, it's a matter of, hitting his spots, and he has to be precise, right? And that's also something that we discussed earlier this year, that when Kyle Hendricks is on, it's because he's got pinpoint accuracy in terms of hitting the strike zone. And I know that you kind of have to have the benefit of the doubt from the umpire and make sure you get those calls on the edges and on the corners.
Yeah.
But again, it's just so funny to me how this series so far has been kind of a microcosm of the Angels' entire season, right? Where, a game with a lack of adjustments in game 1, game 2, they do make the adjustments that they need. Good starting pitching along the way. And then every now and then you get a great game, kind of like what they had on Sunday.
Locked On Angels is brought to you by Prize Picks. It's the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every single day, but on Prize Pick, being right means you can cash in. And with football back, Prize Picks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on all of the football action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes, and you can do it in less than 60 seconds unless you want to sit there and think about it, but you're not going to need to, because it's as simple as this. Like Josh Allen. I took Josh Allen for more than 270 passing yards this weekend, and I took Saquon Barkley for less than 1.5 rushing TDs this weekend. Now, for being wrong, but I did that based off of who they're facing and what the defense looks like. Now, you can download the Prize Pick app, and you can do the same thing that I did, maybe have more success than I will, and use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB. You're going to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. Prize Picks, it's good to be right.
So on Sunday, the Angels pick up the 3-0 win, a tremendous performance from Jose Soriano that we'll get to. But all the focus from this game, Mike, was on Taylor Ward. Their first takeaway was that he crashed into the scoreboard in left field and was carted off the field. Here's what happened. He was tracking a deep fly ball to left, and the right side of Ward's head hit the edge of the metal out-of-town scoreboard. It's like a grid of small windows with the hanging numbers, and it was bleeding enough that as soon as he got up and walked toward the bullpen for the Angels, Andrew Chafin comes out and puts a towel to his face. Andrew Chafin is that dude, by the way. I like that he was Johnny on the spot right there. After the game, Ray Montgomery said, I think it's just getting reevaluated and maybe going to the hospital to get some stitches. I'm hoping he's fine. But my guy, Joe Adell, was not shy about sharing how unsafe that field is, because he was injured crashing into the same fence when he played left field in 2021. He said, Taylor's doing what he's supposed to do. He's being aggressive on the play. Bottom line, there should be no out-of-town metal scoreboard anywhere on the baseball field. It's the big leagues. This S is ridiculous. A guy goes back to make a play, and he's got to worry about a metal fence. That's crazy. So that's my honest opinion about it. He did everything he could to make the play, and he gets beat up by something that's beyond his control. He also added that Joe said, I pulled an oblique on it. I hit my head. I missed a month and a half of the season. At what point is this just not acceptable anymore? I don't know. In my opinion, that's what Joe Adell had to say. There were people saying, well, it was an accident and, the stadium and da-da-da-da-da. And I hate Daikin Park. I hate Minute Maid Park. I'm so sick of this juice box, janky, puzzle piece shaped toy box of a park. And it's like, it's stupid when they designed the stupid thing because there was a hill in center field and there was a flagpole in center field at one point. Now I know both of those things have been removed. Mike, left center, you have the warehouse doors that jut in and out. They're like jagged and they go in and out like this. I hate this stupid ballpark with a passion. And maybe it just makes it worse that it's the Astros home ballpark. Rebuild the Astrodome. Bring that back. We need that back instead of the stupid Daikin Park, Minute Maid Park. I am so sick of this stadium and guys getting hurt there. It's beyond ridiculous.
It feels like Minecraft is what it really feels like, right? Like somebody built a little castle. Right. It's just dumb. Now, I bet that they'll probably have some sort of padding there next year. I bet that they're going to do some of that. But it is just a puzzle piece out there, and that wall jets out, and then it goes in, and it's dumb. And I know that there were some comments about, Ward running out there and him not being a great left fielder, and that this was more on him than it was on the wall, and that when you go from the field to the dirt, the warning track, you should be able to tell. The reality is that warning track is so small, and Ward is hustling after that ball.
Yeah. It's 315 out to left field, and because it's got the high wall, so it's harder to hit a home run. But it's still only 315 out that way.
He's got to make a split-second decision, and he's got to make that decision quicker than a split second. And so Ward literally is running after this ball. If you didn't see it, you got to see it. He's running after this ball with his glove up. And then there was no moment for him to react as soon as he hit the warning track. He takes a step and then the wall's right there. So I get that Taylor Ward, and we've talked about Taylor Ward. He's not the greatest left fielder. He's not the greatest defensive player, but I love the hustle. And so I'm with Joe Adell on this. I think Joe Adell stepped up to protect his buddy and his teammate. I think it's ridiculous. It's not the freaking little leagues. And the fact that they have this little league fence out there where you can run into it and you can get hurt like this is just absolutely ridiculous. And so I'm glad that Joe Adell said something about this situation.
I know that it opened in 2000, but the way that they designed it was like, oh, what if we did this? What if we had these?
Oh, this would be cool.
Here? What if we had a hill with a flagpole? It was either designed by a little kid or something that you could put in Chat GPT and it would spit out for you an AI.
They've got a T-square and they got a juice box. That's literally what's in their hands. Stupid.
I have always hated this park. It's I can't stand it.
Yeah.
Shout out, by the way, to Ramon Arias for pulling up at second when he saw that Ward had taken that hit because he had a double. Now, it was hard to tell from the replay, like where, Teodosio was at that moment or Neto. So I don't know if that was more, defensively like, oh, I'm not going to get to third. But at least it was like he saw what happened and went, I'm going to stop. Yeah. So shout out to him for that one. Second takeaway here, Jose Soriano, in what I feel like we just said, he pitched his best game ever, like not that long ago.
Yeah.
This one was his best game ever, wasn't it, Mike?
Yeah, 7 innings, held the Astros to just 1 hit, walked 3, struck out 8. Ray Montgomery said that he was really, really good. First 2 innings, he had a couple of deep counts, some 3-0 counts on a few guys. Ray said that he was kind of out of character there, but I would disagree. Soriano has had a lot of moments where he's had 2 outs and then would go 3-0 on somebody, but he really regrouped according to what Ray Montgomery said and according to what we saw, and he came back in all of those counts, really dialed it in after that. He was really good. John, he was cruising in this game. And what I loved about this is that he is somebody who has really kind of risen to the top of this rotation to be the stopper of this rotation. And that's the thing the Angels just haven't had for years and years and years, somebody they can count on. And so look what happens when you have a rotation that can actually give you 5 to 6 innings, quality starts. And then you get to your quote unquote ace. I mean, they won 2 out of 3 this weekend. I get that they have 1 more today, but That was unexpected because it's the Astros. That
Yeah.
was unexpected because the Angels have been down. And it's unexpected because we just struggle at this juice box of a park. And so look what happens when you have good quality starting pitching, Angels, Artie. Look what happens when you develop good quality starting pitching. It helps your team to be in games, especially when the offense isn't that great.
Yeah, absolutely. Third takeaway here was a nice day from Mike Trout, who had 2 doubles, hit a 404-foot blast off the wall in left center for one of his doubles. Again, would have probably been a home run, I believe, at Angel Stadium.
Yep.
I hate this park so much. Trout said last 2 days, even yesterday, being able to recognize pitches, that's the biggest thing. When I turn way in and lose sight of the ball, that's when I get in trouble. Jeff Fletcher tweeted and mentioned that when Trout says he's talking about not recognizing the ball, it's not a matter of he can't see it because of vision problems. It's the way he's turning his body and turning his head. And so he's got to keep that head still and forward and focus on that. Now, Oswald Peraza continued to have a great weekend. He hit a home run in this one. And then to add to that, his go-ahead double from the night before made him somebody that was a key player in this series. Ray Montgomery said he's been working since the day he got here. And the idea of getting him in there and getting some at-bats and then seeing that was really nice to see. Obviously, it was a first pitch slider, and he drove it to right center field off of a pretty good arm. So, yeah, give Peraza more at-bats because he's here next year.
Yeah.
Not Rengifo, right? Yeah. Not Moncada. Like, give Peraza some at-bats because I think, like I mentioned, I think the Angels have the time to be patient with Peraza and work with him and try to get something out of him. I think with the Yankees, it's just everybody's moving 100 miles an hour. They're focused on playoffs. They're focused on World Series or bust. And a guy like Peraza can get lost in the shuffle. I think the when you talk about a change of scenery guy, it really, this is a great example of that because the Angels are a team that have the ability to be patient and work with him and try to get him good. While the Yankees, like I said, are just moving 100 miles an hour. They don't have time to wait for Peraza to get good. They're trying to get somewhere at the end of the season.
Last thing, the Angels haven't, as of this recording, announced who's going to pitch on Tuesday. Obviously, we know Tyler Anderson's down. They did sign Jose Soriano, who is now who was in uniform yesterday. This is his 5th big league team. So he is a candidate to start on Tuesday in Kansas City. Other names, Mitch Ferris, who was scratched from his start in Double-A on Sunday, could come up. Not going to be Sam Aldeguerri. He pitched 8 shutout innings in Double-A on Saturday, so he's off the books. There's a lot of questions as to who's going to be in this rotation now that Anderson is down and they need somebody for that 5th spot. So Urania looks like he's going to be a guy and maybe possibly a Mitch Ferris, maybe a Sam Aldeguerri next round. I'd love to see some of the young guys come up, John, and be able to prove themselves, especially in Aldeguerri. I'd love to see Mitch Ferris because we've heard a lot about him, but haven't seen him at the big league level. So why not give him a shot? Because remember, they're not the competitive team. They're the quote unquote competitive team.
Yeah, Mitch Ferris has some swing and miss stuff in his game too. Like you discussed last week, we need guys to come up and have some swing and miss in their game, and I think that he could be a really good candidate for that.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Angels on YouTube so you don't miss all of this great Halo content, including the best postcast in the biz with Gavin Carlson live after every game right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.
Hey, be sure you give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels and on Twitter and Instagram at Super Halo Bros. Again, whether you're watching, listening, looking at us on your TV for some reason, because we also are on the TV apps. Hello. Come on over to YouTube, get in the conversation by getting in the comments section. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button while you're there. Mike, what do we have on deck for Tuesday's show?
Well, we talked about Trout, and he did have a good game on Sunday, but the Angels are really working with him to help him be Mike Trout again. So we're going to talk some details as to what they're actually doing, and it's a little bit different than what they were doing earlier this year. So we'll talk all about that tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
All right, looking forward to that conversation. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Hey, we hope you have a great holiday today. Spend it with the people you care about, and then spend tomorrow with the people you care about, me and Mike. All right, friends, we'll see you back here on Tuesday.
All you laborers for this Labor Day.